What's up everyone, my name is Coleman, and in this video, I'm going to be going over Trulieve and some of the different concerns people have been bringing up in the past month, which have been contributing to the stock's recent sell-off. This is a company I've recently talked about that I've been buying, so I want to address these issues and see if there's any reasons, in my opinion, to be concerned. I specifically want to go over two things, and that is JT Burnette and Trulieve's properties and the possibility of fraud. And at the end, I'll give my thoughts and what I'm doing with this company. But before we get into it, I just want to mention that I do have a position in Trulieve, and nothing I say is financial advice, and you have to do your own research. With that said, let's waste no time and get right into it. First, let's talk about what's been the headline news that has likely affected the stock price the most, and that is that JT Burnette, who is the husband of Trulieve's CEO Kim Rivers, was just found guilty on 5 out of 9 counts in a federal bribery and corruption case. He was found guilty of extortion, 2 counts of mail fraud, travel act, and lying to the FBI, and could face years in prison depending how the rest of this plays out. Burnette's sentencing is set for October 28th, so we'll likely know how it plays out then. But this is all pretty newsworthy because he's the CEO's husband. Now there are a lot of aspects to this story since Burnette got hit with 5 different charges, but only part of it relates to Trulieve, so that's what I want to focus on. What happened is that in 2014, Florida was giving out 5 cannabis licenses, and one of the applicants was Trulieve, which was and still is run by CEO Kim Rivers. Burnette, who was in a relationship with Kim, was accused of working with State Representative Halsey Beshears to help Trulieve get a license by boxing out the competition. Keep in mind, at the time, Burnette's girlfriend was the CEO Kim Rivers, and Beshears' brother Thad was sitting on Trulieve's board of directors. These are also 2 of Trulieve's largest shareholders. In a 2016 recording with an undercover FBI agent, Burnette boasted about working with State Representative Beshears to tweak the criteria for those applying for a medical marijuana license, making it impossible for certain competitors to qualify. The criteria ended up getting changed, and Trulieve ended up with the license. When pressed on this conversation in court, JT downplayed the story and said that he told the story because he thought it was what the undercover FBI agents, who he believed at the time were investors in a real estate company, wanted to hear. Burnette then said, "The reality is that I was kind of bragging about something that happened before my time." The Tallahassee Democrat did report, though, that in court, Burnette answered yes when he was asked if he was actively involved in opening up the business with Rivers. So that would suggest it might not have been before his time. That said, Beshears has also claimed that he had no idea what Burnette was talking about and denied any involvement in changing the license criteria. In the past, Trulieve has also responded to whether they've rigged the political system to receive licenses, and they've said, "This is absolutely false, and we consider these statements to be libelous." Recently, they said again that Burnette has nothing to do with the company, and the criminal case has nothing to do with Rivers or the company. The charges Burnette faced arose out of other business ventures. Kim Rivers also tweeted out, "I have never been more confident in the future of Trulieve, nor more proud of what we have built over the past 5 years." So you have to make of it what you want. That said, even after all of these denials that this has happened, some people are still uncertain and wonder whether Burnette could have been involved in rigging the system to help Trulieve obtain licenses, and since he's the husband of the CEO, people are concerned about potential corruption, bad optics, and repercussions for Trulieve, which I'll get into later. So some consider this to be an uncertain situation, which has contributed to the stock's recent sell-off. Next, let's go over the concern of their properties and the idea that there could be fraud. So what's the concern? Well, in Trulieve's 2021 10K or annual report, Trulieve says, "We have no material properties." Now this was unusual to see because if you look at their investor presentation, you can clearly see that Trulieve lists dozens of dispensaries in Florida and more in other states throughout the US. They also have cultivation sites, so the fact that Trulieve reported that they have no material properties caught people's attention, and some people are worried about potential fraud. Additionally, in their latest 10Q, Trulieve reported that they have over $400 million in property and equipment, and they invested over $115 million in this area. So the fact that they are investing into this area so aggressively, yet don't list any of these properties, is raising some red flags. For example, if you look at some of their competitors, they list their properties on their 10Ks. Green Thumb lists all of their properties, whether they're leased or owned. Tilray lists all of their cultivation, manufacturing, and storage facilities. And Canopy Growth lists all of their production facilities. So even if Trulieve rents their properties, you'd still think they'd show up under this section. To add to this, in their 10K, Trulieve says that JT Burnette, the spouse of Kim Rivers, who's Trulieve's CEO, is a minority owner of a construction company that provides construction and related services to Trulieve. And over the past few years, Trulieve has paid this company millions of dollars, which is raising questions on whether Trulieve is fraudulent and just funneling money to the CEO's husband, which is why they say that they have no material properties. Luckily, I did some digging and was able to find some information on this near the beginning of their 10K. On page 10, Trulieve says, "We lease all of our stores, 2 of our 5 cultivation sites in Florida, and our combined cultivation and production sites in Pennsylvania and Massachusetts." This is the important part. They say, "We do not have any one lease representing over 10% of our consolidated leasing costs, and as a result, we do not consider any of our leases to be material." So because they don't consider any of their leases to be material, this could help explain and provide some clarity on why they don't list their leased properties under the properties section on their 10K. That said, they do say they own a couple of their own properties, even though most of them are leased. Now you'd think that these would be listed since they own these properties, but they're not. Now maybe this is because they're not valuable enough to be considered material properties, since the SEC's own website says the properties section is for significant physical properties, but I still haven't been able to find a concrete reason on why these properties aren't listed. I've also reached out to Trulieve's investor relations on this, but I haven't heard back yet. Now as far as JT Burnette and the construction company, Trulieve seems pretty transparent about this, which is why they state this relationship on their 10K. They say that this supplier was approved by the board and all invoices are reviewed by the general counsel. Additionally, they've said in the past that this supplier was chosen because they are knowledgeable, experienced, and provide high quality services at favorable terms that are below market and cost. That said, given the recent news around Burnette, people do have questions about this relationship. So what are my thoughts on all of this, and what am I doing? Well, first, I want to talk about their properties, and then I'll go over JT Burnette, Kim Rivers, and what I'm doing with this investment in Trulieve. First, as far as their properties, in my opinion, this isn't an area I'm particularly concerned about right now. Trulieve does state why they don't list their leased properties, so that does ease some potential concerns. So all that's left to wonder about are their 3 properties they say they own. Now they don't list these properties, which is unusual for companies in this industry, but given that this is only a small portion of their total properties, I'm not particularly concerned, although I'm still trying to find an answer to this. Additionally, in their 10K, they state that they have over $317 million worth of property and equipment, and over $5 million of that is considered land. And remember, these are audited financial statements, so the information listed should be accurate, so I'm not particularly concerned about this. Next, as far as the seeming conflict of interest with JT Burnette's construction firm working for Trulieve, this is actually something I'm not a big fan of. Although Trulieve is very transparent about this relationship and say that they get these services below market value, I'm personally not a big fan of it, although I know some people who have a completely opposite view. In my opinion, a company the size of Trulieve using a company owned by the CEO's husband just doesn't have the best optics since they're paying them millions of dollars. I'm sure there are hundreds of other construction companies they could choose from, so it just seems like the company the size of Trulieve would want to keep themselves away from any bad optics or potential conflict of interest. And the recent news around Burnette would seem to back that statement up. I also should mention that this has brought into question whether this relationship will affect Trulieve's ability to get new licenses or maintain their existing ones, since Burnette was recently convicted and Trulieve has ties to him. Even Trulieve's board of directors stated in 2020 that we do not know what impact, if any, this investigation will have on our future efforts to maintain and obtain licenses in Florida or elsewhere. For example, just days before Burnette's conviction, Trulieve received one of Georgia's first ever medical licenses. This announcement was immediately met with 21 protests from companies that were concerned with Trulieve's ties to Burnette. Joshua Luttrell, who is a member of a group that failed to win the license, said that if Trulieve is using a vendor that now has a conviction for a federal crime, that should be a huge issue and an automatic disqualifier. Now I'm sure he's obviously going to be biased since his company lost the license, but it's clear that people are concerned about Trulieve's ties to Burnette. Now right now, I don't really think Trulieve's relationship with Burnette will affect their licenses because no one at Trulieve is being investigated and they've continued to deny that Burnette was involved, but these types of situations are always worth paying attention to since it could affect the underlying business. I'm particularly going to pay attention to see if anything happens with the protests in Georgia, since it could be a good gauge on whether the government cares about the relationship with Burnette, or whether all of that negative news is just from people who are upset about not getting the licenses. That said, I consider this to be a minor concern right now that could go away quickly. And that brings me to another situation I'm paying attention to, and that is your CEO Kim Rivers. As I've talked about, her husband has recently been charged, and additionally, as part of the investigation, text messages showed a close relationship between Rivers and former city commissioner Scott Maddox, who was one of the co-conspirators and pleaded guilty to multiple charges. So I don't want to write this off as nothing, because in my opinion, it is somewhat alarming that the CEO of a company this big has multiple people close to her who have been charged with corruption and fraud. That said, she's currently not under investigation and did just buy about $100,000 worth of Trulieve stock on August 17th, so that does give me some confidence. Overall, I'm not too concerned about much of the recent news, but I am paying attention to a few different aspects. So what am I doing with Trulieve? Well, I currently am a Trulieve shareholder, and my plan is to continue to hold my existing shares, and as the price has fallen, I've actually bought in a little bit more. Although I do have some concerns, like I mentioned, I would consider those to be minor right now, and since the underlying business is continuing to get much better, I feel comfortable slightly adding to my position as the price continues to fall. Plus, I already knew some of these things, like the FBI investigation, before I invested, since it's been going on for a few years now. So I personally think a lot of the recent news has been overblown and likely won't affect their underlying business, but I'm continuing to monitor it because I could always be wrong and things could change fast. With that said, if you liked the video and found it helpful, don't forget to hit the like button, and if you want to see more videos like this one, please subscribe down below and hit the notification bell. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.